Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm your host Anu Khanna, and today I am joined by Dave Seward, who's founder and engineering director at 3P Innovation Limited. And he would just correct me and say, no, I'm no longer the founder, because he's just shared with me how the company has now moved into employee ownership. So Dave, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about the employee ownership, please?
Hi there, so I'm Dave Seward. I was the founder of 3P Innovation and so part owner. And recently we converted to employee ownership. It was kind of a natural thing for 3P to do. We were unusual in that when we actually founded the business, there were actually six of us that founded. So when I say I'm the founder, I'm not the founder, I'm one of the six founders. We were like-minded engineers who were interested in making the things that make things. So what we do is we make automation, we make machinery. So if anybody watches How's It Made on the television and wonders who is it that comes up with those machineries, that's us. We build those machines. We started with six founders, so that's a bit unusual. So we came from a PLC, so that meant that we were used to corporate governance, the way that you operate, the meetings. So even though we were owners, we were operating as if we were the managers, and there was somebody else that was kind of the magical owner, even though we were the owners. What we also did as a business early on is when we were bringing people in, we were giving them share options so that they were benefiting from the growth in the business. So when we converted to employee ownership, I think it was around 60% of the workforce actually had some level of ownership in the business. Any owner has to think about exit strategy. And as I was the youngest of the founding team, it was beholding of me and a couple of others that were left after a few had already left to decide how are we going to exit the business. We were particularly interested in a legacy. We'd worked in a PLC. We'd seen how corporate acquisitions had gone wrong, both from the buyer and the seller's side. We didn't particularly want that for the business. We went to the management team and said, are you interested in a management buyout, perhaps? There's lots of different models for doing this. There wasn't really the appetite for that. And we were aware from other companies that we dealt with about this employee ownership model. So we investigated more. We went and had a chat with a couple of companies we know really well, who were quite friendly towards us, and they'd explained how they'd approached it. There are about 1,700 companies in the UK that are employee owned. Business effectively gets sold to a trust, and the trust is for the benefit of the employee. So nobody parts with money when they join us, but when they join us, they become an employee owner of the business. And when they leave, they don't get any money back either. They leave, they're no longer a beneficiary of that trust. For us, it was quite a natural thing to do, partly because of the culture of the place, partly because many people already had shares anyway, because we believed in sharing the wealth that we were creating with those people that were creating the wealth. So I give you a little bit of an overview?
Yes, very good overview. Thank you for that. There'll be a lot of business owners watching this. And if someone's thinking, well, what is the biggest advantage? Because there's a lot of letting go. You as the owner are relinquishing your control. But what's at stake? What's the biggest advantage why someone should do it?
Okay, so I think there's a big long list. I'm kind of become a bit of an evangelist for employee ownership, having been through it. But it's not all positives. I think if you haven't set up your business in the right way, or if it's maybe multi-generational, there are ways of setting up businesses that mean there's tax. You can avoid paying capital gains tax when you sell the business if you set it up in the right way, which we did. So we weren't driven by that. But one thing is that you do avoid capital gains with a sale to an employee-owned trust. So there's a benefit there potentially from a tax perspective. because it's a transitional sale, that's the positive and the negative. If you do a trade sale, you're probably going to get all your money on day one. But you also lose control on day one.
Yeah.
If you go down the EO route, you kind of effectively get paid out from the trust over a period of time, because you have to do it in an affordable manner, in the way that the business can afford, which means you can have to wait several years before you get paid out. But during that period, you can also regain control of the business. And in theory, once you're fully paid out, you can still be a manager of the business. You can still be the managing director of the business. You can still retain that control, but you no longer own the business.
True. Control, yes, I can see that as positive, but someone who's selling the company really wants that cash flow, wants that investment, wants the money. And in this case, you have to wait till it actually happens. So what is the biggest advantage? I hear from a tax perspective, yes, from a control perspective, yes. But what was the trigger? You know, what's the big thing here?
Well, the main reason we liked it was that I think it matched our ethics, our moral compass. It was a lot about how the business operates anyway. We're quite a transparent, we've always been quite a transparent business with our employees. We've also tried to share the wealth with the employees as it's been created. We're very focused on growth. We want to grow this business. All the academic studies show that employee-owned businesses outperform classically ownership models. So it's a good thing for growth. Why is it a good thing for growth? Well, it helps us to recruit people, because they understand that when they join us, they become part of that employee ownership group. So people are intrigued because it is a little bit unusual, and they go, I like the sound of that. It also then helps with retention. The government have recognised that employee ownership businesses outperform normal businesses. So when in the press you get to hear about, say, the John Lewis bonus that gets paid to all employees, essentially what you might not realise is that's tax-free. The reason it's tax-free is the government recognise that they should help employee-owned businesses, because ultimately they get more corporation tax because these businesses grow rapidly. We want growth. And it just means that the place is a happier place to be, because we're now, what's our raison d'etre? Our raison d'etre is to be a good place to work.
Yes, there we go. Lots of advantages then. Good place to work, taxed incentives, capital tax incentive, ultimate growth, scalability, and legacy. And then the cultural and the ethos, it really sounds like a win-win.
Yes, as I say, I've become a bit of an evangelist for employee ownership, having been through it. It's thing to do, and we're 4 years on, and it absolutely still feels the right thing to do. The other employee owned businesses where I know personally the managing directors who did it before me and gave me advice and recommended doing it, they still think it's a good idea for their businesses. So that I haven't come across anybody that's done it that regrets it. And now I'm having meetings with people considering it, where I'm the one saying, this is how you go about it. This is how you do it. These are the pros. These are the cons. Overall, I'd recommend it.
You're giving it back now.
Yes.
Fantastic. If someone was to go through this, what kind of challenges can they expect during the journey before it actually materializes?
I think the most painful part of the transition is actually having to deal with all the legal people because I'm an engineer, I'm not a legal person. So contracts are not my comfort zone. So the articles of association for the trading company needed changing. Lawyers. We need to create a trust. Lawyers. We need articles of association for the trust. Lawyers. We need a sale agreement. lawyers.
And lawyers are going to be winning through this.
Yeah. So the trade agreement is weird because you have to act for yourself. Sorry, the sale agreement. You have to act for yourself, and you have to also act for the trust. So you have to work both sides. In fact, what we did was we were recommended an external trustee that we brought in specifically with legal training to act. And we had to bring in a separate set of lawyers to act for us. So you've effectively got two sets of lawyers that are making sure the agreement works for everyone. And you also have to deal with, we use the consultancy, you have to get the company fairly valued because there are tax implications. HMRC quite rightly want to make sure you're not pulling a fast one. So the valuation of the business has to be fair and above board. So you can't just say, oh, I think it's worth this. There has to be an external valuation. So that whole process, I suspect you could do it in maybe 6 months. We didn't particularly rush it. It was getting on for the best part of a year, lots of meetings with lawyers, back and forth with lots of legal documents, which was, you do take your eye off the ball for a while that's all happening. But when I talk to people who've done a classic trade sale, exactly the same thing happens. You've still got lots of lawyers involved.
Yes.
You've still got your eye off the ball while you're having to deal with that. So
yes. Lawyers win through every
difference.
kind of acquisition, mergers, MBOs, and now employee schemes. Yeah. Great. Tips for business owner is thinking of going through this, doing the employee scheme for their company, for their employees. What would you suggest? What would be your recommendation? What are your learnings that you can share with someone?
I think the first bit of advice is there is a thing called the EOA, the Employee Ownership Association. Google it, find the URL, Employee Ownership Association. They have conferences, they have lots of resources on the website. It gives you a flavour of what employee ownership is all about. It also has papers that explain why, the academic papers that show that employee ownership outperforms standard businesses. The advice we had early on, which we took and worked for us, and I advise anybody else to do, is go and find another employee-owned business. Normally, they will talk to you, like I talk to people when they approach us. But yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I know where you're at because I was there once, so come and have a chat. And if you go to the Employee Ownership Association, they have an interactive map. So you can put your postcode in and you'll find out which businesses in your area have converted. Or it might be that you know somebody that's already done it. It's not that long ago, there was about 1,200 companies, then it's 14, I think it's about 1,700. So it's clearly growing quite rapidly, the number of companies that are in this zone.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much, Dave. And thank you for joining us on the Business Spotlight series today. And myself and the viewers, we all have learned more about the employee scheme. And I'm sure you'll be contacted more often now.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, Dave.